Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. In today's video, we're going to briefly analyze Atletico Madrid midfielder Saul and break down what he would offer to Chelsea's midfield. So in today's video, first we're going to focus on Saul's role in Atletico's setup, then shift to his key strengths in that midfield zone, and then we'll finish off with how Saul may fit into Thomas Tuchel's Chelsea setup. So if we shift our attention to the board, we can see Atletico Madrid in a 4-4-2 with Saul starting as the right-sided midfielder. And what is key about this Atletico Madrid side is that Diego Simeone has trained them to play in different systems. What you end up seeing here from Saul from that right-sided role is that he's looking to get himself into advanced positions between the lines and find little pockets of space to receive the ball. What ends up happening is that he often finds himself in that gap between the central midfielder and the left-sided midfielder, or just ahead of the center back and the left back. He's looking to receive the ball in those zones. What's also important is his movement. At times, he's occupying that space between the center back and the left back, and he's giving Atletico Madrid a third attacking option in and around the box. If he's not doing that, he's making runs into that gap, and that does create space for, let's say, Trippier, who is looking to push forward from right back. And what he's also looking to do is that when Atletico Madrid do break into the box, he ends up utilizing his height advantage to tower over the fullbacks to present an aerial threat. If he is playing in a central midfield position, he's still looking to push forward, and it's often Koke who is sitting deeper if they are playing in that midfield too. And that's where you also see him looking to make runs into those gaps of space. And at times what you end up seeing is that he could make the run in between the right back and the center back, and that's where he's able to occupy space and drag out the right back, and that creates space for a Carrasco on the left-hand side, or a Lodi who's looking to push forward. Here's an example of Saul making a run off the right back to create space for Carrasco to receive a diagonal ball in the left channel. Besides that, from that central midfield position, his role is the same. He's looking to receive that ball between the lines. He's looking to make those runs in between the center back and the full back. And what you could also say about Saul is that he does look to check into the ball from those positions. He is capable of getting into those deeper midfield zones and playing penetrative passes. The thing is that we don't see it often, but he is capable of doing that. In the build-up to Atletico's third goal against Eibar, you could see Saul unmarked in his own half, locating Carrasco's run beyond the high line, and he clips the ball over the top to place Carrasco in a position where he's able to round the keeper. And that's where you end up seeing him in this position where he guides the ball past a sliding defender and he's able to increase Atletico's lead. Here against Athletic Club, you could see Saul at the edge of the halfway circle and he locates the run of Lodi off of Berenguer and he clips a diagonal ball out to the left back to advance the play. And then later on, once again, you could see him towards the right channel this time, picking up the ball ahead of the midfield bank, and he locates Lodi making a run in towards the penalty area. And that's where you see Saul placing Lodi in a position where he can nod back the ball into the path of an Atletico striker. And while he doesn't look to dominate the game from those central positions, he's still capable of breaking lines with that pass. And what he's also very good at is playing that first time pass to bypass pressure. If we look to an example of Saul advancing play between the lines, first focus on his movement as he receives this ball in a pocket of space from his teammate. As you can see, the Valladolid midfield is bypassed, and Saul instantly looks to evade the pressure that is coming towards him by sliding the ball out into the wider area to combine with Jan Carrasco. When Carrasco receives the ball, you can now see Saul looking to make a forward run into the gap between the center back and the right back. As that develops, now what ends up happening is that Saul's looking to check into the ball as Carrasco is taking on Villa. And what happens is that Carrasco plays that forward pass into the path of Saul, and he instantly looks to poke it across Yanko for Carrasco to continue the attack down the left channel. And that's a good example as to how Saul can progress play from those advanced positions. You could see him dropping deeper into that midfield zone, and that's where he's looking to play quick 1-2s with his fullbacks or his wide players to get them to break into the opposing side's half. Here we could witness just simple combination play with Saul and Lodi. You could see Saul checking into the ball to receive Lodi's pass, and that's where the two Atletico players are able to play a quick 1-2, and Saul is able to ensure that he takes out two Bilbao players out of the game, and that's where you end up seeing Lodi continuing his run off Berenguer to break into Athletic Club's half. However, what happens next is that, as you can see, Saul's pass allows Lodi to bypass those two Athletic Club players. what happens is that Lodi's next touch is a bit heavy and that halts the attack. If you look to another example, it's Koke receiving the ball at the edge of his own box, and it's Saul free in that midfield zone. You can see him checking in towards the ball. When Koke plays that pass, that's when you end up seeing Saul receiving it just ahead of some pressure, but the pressure is late, and he locates Carrasco making a run off the right-sided Betis player, and he instantly looks to play the pass into Carrasco to ignite an Atletico counterattack. While Saul shouldn't be recognized for his tackling or his ability to break up play, he's still capable of getting into challenges to help his side win possession and also ignite counterattacks in transition. As we focus on Valladolid looking to counter from their own box, focus on Saul's starting position as the ball is being controlled. When the ball is brought down and the Valladolid player is looking to turn, it's Saul who sprints towards it and he makes a challenge that helps Atletico win possession and it halts the Valladolid counterattack. If we look to another example, it's Budimir chesting down a loose ball in the halfway circle and focus on Saul's initial position just behind Moncayola. As Budimir looks to bring the ball towards his feet, it's Saul who's stepping in following a loose touch, and this is a big problem for Osasuna as Saul's looking to bypass Budimir to break at that Osasuna backline. He slides the ball to Correa and he receives it back, and that's where he locates Luis Suarez making a run off Garcia into the gap between Garcia and Ramalho. What happens next is Saul looks to slide the ball into the path of Suarez, who is now making a run off Garcia, and you could see that the right wing back isn't going to be able to recover. And it places him in a position where he can now drag the ball forward as Garcia isn't going to be able to get across in time, and Suarez carries the ball into left half space and he fires a low effort on goal that's pushed away. On the other hand, Atletico also play in a back three, and they play a system identical to Chelsea's 3-4-2-1, and you could see Saul also playing in that central role, and ultimately his role doesn't really change. He does look to push forward into those gaps of space, and he's also ensuring that Atletico have more bodies in between the lines, and like I said, he's capable of making those runs forward in between the gaps or to drag away fullbacks to create space for the wingback. There have been times where we've seen Saul playing as a wingback as well, and in those situations, what you end up seeing is that he often doesn't offer much of a threat offensively or defensively. But in terms of the offense, when he's able to receive the ball and carry it across his marker, he's able to guide the ball into that central area. And that's where he looks to link play with his teammates. Here we can look to a Saul threat from left wing back as he looks to cut across Serginho Dest, who does apply pressure to him when he receives a switch of play. And Saul takes the ball across Dest, and what happens here is that you could see a 3v2 being formed. Carrasco's dragging his marker wide, and Hermoso's making a run forward. Saul identifies that threat, and he takes another touch across Dest, and he plays a forward ball across the defender into the path of Hermoso, making a forward run into left half space. From there, Hermoso's looking to play a first-time ball through the 6-yard box, and it falls to Luis Suarez, but his first-time effort is blocked. Besides that, if Atletico aren't playing that 3-4-2-1, we can see them playing in more of a 3-1-4-2, and that presents Saul the opportunity to play in his preferred role where he operates as a shuttler and has protection in behind him, and that gives him more license to operate in between those lines, occupy defenders, and make late runs towards the back post to present more aerial threats in and around that box for Atletico. Therefore, if you closely monitor Saul's game, the reoccurring main threat that he possesses from that midfield zone are his late runs into the penalty area to drag defenders away or to present an additional goal threat. Against Real Betis, you could see Hermoso receiving a pullback at the edge of the box. And when you look into that penalty area, you can see Joao Felix and Saul occupying two Betis defenders, and it's Saul who's looking to make a run towards the back post. When Hermoso clips that ball into the penalty area, it's Saul towering over his defender in the 6-yard box, and he rises high to nod an effort on goal that's pushed away by the keeper. Against Valladolid, you can see Hermoso on the ball with Saul in the midfield gap looking to push between the lines into the wing back and right center back gap. Hermoso ends up sliding the ball into the path of Correa, and Saul's movement does get him between the lines, but here it looks like Correa is going to be dispossessed. However, Carrera does a very good job of ensuring that Atletico do retain possession, and the ball falls into the path of Luis Suarez, and because no one picks up Saul, that initial run places him in a position where Suarez can play the ball beyond the Valladolid backline for Saul to break free on goal. He does that, but the pass is slightly overhit, and it forces Saul to make a sliding lunge ahead of the on-rushing goalkeeper, and while he does guide the ball through the 6-yard box, it's cleared for a corner. Then we can look to Lodi on the ball from the left channel and focus on Saul making an unmarked run towards the back post at the edge of the box. As Lodi's closed down by Berenguer, he looks to play a ball towards that area because he sees a 2v1 at that back post, with Saul breaking just in behind. His delivery does make that mark, and as you can see, Saul has a running start from the edge of the box and he does challenge for the ball, and that shows the threat and his anticipation to make those runs from that midfield zone, but unfortunately from here he's unable to hit the target. Against Osasuna, you have Trippier on the ball from the right channel, and focus on Saul's positioning ahead of the Garcias, with Suarez occupying one of them. As this play continues, you can see Trippier prepare to deliver a cross in that zone, and that's where you now have the 2v2 battle because Saul is looking to make that midfield run into the box. As that cross is delivered, focus on Trippier locating Saul making the leap at the back post, where he towers over the right center back, but once again from that 6-yard box area, he nods his effort over the net. Ultimately, that appears to be the role that he can fit into at Chelsea. When you look at their midfield options, neither Conte, Kovacic, or Jorginho are an offensive threat in and around the final third. Besides possibly playing as a wingback, it's unlikely that you will see him playing in those attacking midfield positions given the fact that there is a lot of competition. But with neither of those three options in that midfield zone offering a threat, what you could see specifically against inferior opposition is that when Chelsea are pegging back the opposition, they are looking to push their wingbacks forward to provide threats out in those areas, whether it be breaking them behind or delivering crosses. And with Lukaku occupying center backs and Havertz also presenting an aerial threat, it's a great opportunity for Saul to make late runs into the penalty area and get onto crosses from the wingbacks, or rely on quick combination play from Mount, Havertz, or even Lukaku to make runs into that penalty area to present an additional goal-scoring threat. While Saul may not dominate games from central areas, the attacking zones he drifts into, along with his positional versatility, presents an offensive dynamic to Chelsea's midfield that deems him a likely asset for Thomas Tuchel.